What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Poddex, fueled by Goat Fuel. Joining me for the very first time on the show is the only Chargers fan I know, but it's not a bad thing. It's Mike of Mike on the Mike Sports. You know him as NFL Mike on TikTok and all that good stuff of the Warzone Sports Network and so many other things in the world of sports. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm trying my best, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for the introduction. That was a full introduction right there. Even with the theme, we were talking about it for the show.
Yeah.
And I'm the only Chargers fan that you know. I'm the only Chargers fan that most people know.
Yeah, it's been a minute trying to get Mike on the show. He's always a busy person. I have to ask this just because I heard this from some people that have worked with you before. I just want to know if it's true.
Oh, here we go.
Is your name really Shawn Michaels?
It is Shawn Michaels.
That's dope as hell, man.
Yeah. Next time you talk to Justin, tell him I said what's up. That's actually my name.
Yeah. I think Justin told me. I was like, oh, well, yeah, that would probably make sense why he doesn't say that. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm not named after the wrestler. Ironically, my dad was a wrestling fan, so he probably had to debate this with himself when he was naming me. But my family has a tradition where I got the middle name of my father, which is Sean, and my last name just happened to be Michaels. So that's how it happened. I wasn't named after Shawn Michaels, or I'm not related to Shawn Michaels. But sometimes I lie to people and tell them I am.
That's I can't get mad at you for that. I tell people I was related to
legend.
Yeah, legendary for sure. That's cool. That's actually really cool. Justin likes to lie sometimes. I thought Justin was but that's really cool. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the Chargers. Your Chargers had a solid season, I would say, as an outsider. Obviously, you're a fan, so maybe your opinions, but a really solid season last season that kind of ended in an unfortunate way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But let's talk about Justin Herbert, whose jersey you've got back there over your right shoulder.
Right, yeah.
Firmly in the top 10 among the quarterbacks in the NFL, I would say. Is he top 5 right now, or like pushing top? Where do you have Justin Herbert ranked among the top QBs in the NFL at this point?
To me, the breaking point is like, do you rank Deshaun or not? And if you do rank him, do you rank him still like inside that top 5, what we last saw from him? Because Herbert's like right there on the edge. I think the 5 through 8 rankings can go a bunch of different ways. But he's right there in that tier. I mean, once Brady and Rodgers retire, I think Herbert's going to be like a lock's top 5.
Yeah.
I think so. I really do. I have him in my top 5, but I'm a little bit biased. I've seen people have him as far as 7 or 8, but that just seems to be the wall right there. You're not really going to get him outside of the top 10. I feel like he's already a better quarterback than guys that are still trying to figure out their scrambling and mobile game like Lamar and Kyler. I think that he's a better quarterback, just pure quarterback, than Joe Burrow, but that's definitely a debate. And I think that he already is right there and debatable with Russell Wilson as well. It just kind of depends on how you prefer him. But after this season, Marcus, it ain't going to be a conversation no more.
So after this season, he'll firmly – I mean, rightfully so. He's thrown, what, 50 touchdowns and 25 interceptions over the last 2 years? Something like that. 69 in his first 2 years. He's been incredible. I don't think anyone's thrown more passing yards than him in the first years. I have him 6. He's right outside my top 5. Joe Burrow has the 5th spot.
Oh boy.
I love Joe Burrow. I love Justin Herbert. It's like I always go back and forth. I think a lot of times we kind of do like if you swap positions, like if you took Joe Burrow and put him on the Chargers and you took Justin Herbert and put him on the Bengals, would it make a difference? No. It's really splitting hairs. Like they're about the same age. I think Burrow's maybe a year older. They're about the same height. Like they can do everything about the same. The one thing is Justin Herbert is a lot more mobile than Joe Burrow is, relatively speaking. But he's definitely solid. He is blue collar solid, as I like to say. Is he I know this wasn't on the show flow, but since you mentioned Russell Wilson, let's just talk about it now that he's in Denver. Do you still have him ahead of Russ within the division? Like, we know he's ahead of Derek Carr, and you can have the debate about Pat Mahomes, but is he ahead of Russ for you in the division?
I have him above Russ. I can see how people wouldn't want that because Russ has a history, like a history that's established where he's done this for year after year after year. But after what Herbert did last year, man, 5,000 yards in year 2, and a lot of people don't talk about it. He had 5,500 all-purpose. Like it's insane. It's insane his second year in the league. All-time type stuff. So we'll see how much more Justin Herbert develops, because if he improves again, think about it, from rookie year to second year, he almost gained 10 touchdowns total, including the rushing touchdowns. He went up 800 yards passing and an extra like 300 yards rushing. Like if he makes that jump again into year 3, we're talking about him breaking all-time records in a 17-game season.
That is true. He would be on pace to break some records. Is he?
So I say that all just to say sorry, Russ. That's all.
Is he going to be one of the people that you look out for, like for MVP talks season?
100%, yeah.
Because like if I'm looking at the guys that could potentially be MVP, I think I feel like right now, just before getting into the season, for me personally, Josh Allen's the front runner. I feel like this is kind of Josh Allen and the Bills' year to kind of be good, like be really good. And they've kind of they've been slowly building towards that. Obviously, you have to look at like Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but like Justin Herbert's in there too. And I think not just because I'm a Packers fan, but also because he's back-to-back MVP. Like Aaron Rodgers will likely be in the discussion too. But without Devontae Adams, we'll have to see exactly. He'll still be great, but I don't know if he'll still have that MVP case. Justin Herbert, like if you had to give it a percentage as far as how likely you think he'd walk away with MVP, where are you going on the spectrum?
I mean, I'm with you on Allen as being the front runner, but I think that Herbert has got to be like top 3 or top 5 in that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to put up the same numbers he put up last year. They're going to have to run the ball a lot more, so I think I'd take him out. Brady's a wild card to just keep doing what Brady does and could just win the MVP. He had MVP numbers last year. Rodgers just had less interceptions. That's really what it was. Yeah. Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, I feel like, are in the perfect situation to where their defense is going to help them rack up stats, and their teams are really good and going to win a bunch of games. I would give Herbert like 40%. I don't know, with Allen having the other 60%. I think it's between those two guys.
I think it's definitely between those two guys. I mean, given who Pat is, you obviously look at Pat, and I think Pat's finished top 5 in MVP voting since he's been in the league, but he's also lost some weapons in that offense. I mean, you still got Travis Kelce, but not having Tyreek Hill is going to do wonders for Patrick's numbers in the opposite direction. Speaking of wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who I believe are the most disrespected wide receiver duo in the league. Like I really feel like not enough people give them their flowers. I think Keenan Allen Keenan Allen's in my top 10 of the wide receivers in the league, and I make debates that Mike Williams, when he's healthy, is top 15. Those are two very reliable veteran receivers that Herbert can throw the ball to. Are they a top 10 duo in the league? Like, are they the top 2? Or I'm not top 2. I'm sorry. Are they a top 10 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position in the league?
I feel like they gotta be. I mean, they got everything, and that's what makes them so effective together. And maybe it's not Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, where they're just going to burn you deep like maniacs, or maybe it's not Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are just going to moss you, or maybe it's not like who's another duo, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins is probably a little bit closer to what I'm thinking here. But Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are a perfect duo because Mike Williams has the abilities to take people deep, and Keenan Allen has the abilities to just work that underneath space that Mike Williams opens up. And them together is a dangerous, dangerous duo because you can't single up Mike because he'll just go over your DB and catch it. But you can't single up Keenan because he's gonna cook up almost anyone but the top 5 corners in the league, most likely. Yeah. So they're perfect duo together, and they're both really good red zone guys. They both are really good red zone guys. So when you get down there, it helps with efficiency. You got to put them in the top 10. I'm trying to think of 10 better duos, and I can only really think of like 3 to 5. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. What do you think?
So you got Justin Jefferson to Adam Thielen. I think
that's one.
I think that's a top 5. You obviously look at Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as top 5. Even though they haven't played together, I expect Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson to be a top 5 duo in the league this season. But they'll definitely be top 10. We'll have to see what Allen Robinson looks like. But with Cooper Kupp being the second best receiver in football, I mean, that holds enough weight. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, as you mentioned, I think are easily top 5. And then you kind of have a lot of interesting ones. Like you have Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, what that could look like. I think that's a top 10 duo. I like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on paper, but Tua is their quarterback. We'll have to see if they can produce and if he can feed each other the ball. I think Another interesting new duo is Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. That's kind of the same thing of can Jalen Hurts kind of distribute the ball the right way. That's really, I'm just trying to think of other duos. I mean, I show a lot of love to Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, I think that's a top 10 duo, especially with what Gabe Davis showed he can do in the playoffs last season. Like, I know we give Stephon Diggs a lot of love, and rightfully so because he's the number one guy. But Gabe Davis showed that he could definitely step up and be a reliable number two. Then you could even look at a situation like if Mike Thomas comes back to New Orleans this season. There's a lot of speculation of whether or not if he's done New Orleans. But if he does come back and he comes back healthy, whether it's Mike Thomas and Jarvis Landry or Mike Thomas and Chris Olave, I would like to think that that's got to be a top 10 duo this season as well if Jameis Winston stays healthy. But Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are definitely in there. Like, there's not a – I don't think there's a – not I think. There's not a route that neither one of these guys can't run. Like you mentioned, Mike Williams is a deep threat, but like they're both extremely surgical. And we don't like to give – people don't like to give Mike Williams a lot of credit because he's hurt a lot. But when Mike Williams is healthy, he's a very, very reliable receiver to have on the field because, like you said, it's just a perfect complement. Like, it is – we've seen Mike Williams go off for incredible games. We saw Mike Williams have some really good games last season. This is going to be, I think, always the most disrespected wide receiver duo in the league because they're not, for lack of a better term, they're not like a sexy duo. Like they're not the shiny new toy like Jamar Chase and Justin Herbert. Not that they're not great, but they're not like these flashy. They're very, very fundamentally sound wide receivers that can run any route on the tree. You can split them out wide. You can put them in the slot if you wanted to, and they're damn good at their jobs, dude. And it is. If you're looking at obviously the top five guys in Joe Burrow, because I guess he kind of is in there too, if you want to say he's six. Outside of those six guys, whether it's Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, and these two young guys, I don't know if there's another quarterback in the league that can produce the way that Justin Herbert has produced with this duo. And Herbert's talented, but that also goes to just, again, how fantastic that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are at their job as wide receivers. I don't know if Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray with these two. I don't know if Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson with these two. I think Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback, but I don't know if Dak Prescott will be able to produce the way that Justin Herbert has produced. This is a very special duo, and I don't think they get a lot of love. And damn it, give them their flowers.
Exactly. And the Cardinals are another one now, I guess, with D-Hop and Hollywood one day when D-Hop's suspension is done. But I will say this, when you're listening to those guys, there's kind of like a common theme there. There's a question mark. What is the question mark for each of these duos that are forming in the league? And wide receiver duos is becoming a trend, it looks like now, too.
It is.
What is the question mark for everyone? I think we know exactly what we're getting. There's no question marks with Michael Williams and Keenan Allen. They did it with Phillip Rivers, and now they're doing it with Herbert. They're both going to be 1,000-yard and 90-plus catch receivers as long as they're healthy.
100%. Well, we know they got a talented offense, but I think the talk of the town for the Chargers has been all the moves we've made on defense. You're bringing Khalil Mack, you're bringing J.C. Jackson. Obviously, you already have Joey Bosa and Derwin James back there. Is there too much hype, though, around the Chargers defense? Because we've seen sometimes you bring in a lot of star power on a Pacific side of the ball, and it doesn't always mesh. It doesn't always look the way you want it to look. This is Brandon Staley, who is known as a quote-unquote defensive guy. So he's got more weapons in his arsenal, so to speak. Is there too much hype around the Chargers defense, or do you think they're rated exactly where they should be as like a top 10, potentially top 5 defense in the league when it's all said and done this season?
Oh, I'm all for the hype. I'm all for the hype of the Chargers defense, but I think a lot of it stems more from the offense, and that's the way it kind of comes around in the league nowadays. It's an offensive-driven league, quarterback-driven league, receiver duo now driven league, where we already know that the Chargers offense is elite with Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert. There were multiple games last year where the Chargers are winning 42-40, and it's just like, wow. So where the hype comes from is that people are like, well, what if they even just have a top 12 defense? Let's say they have the 11th best defense in the league with the 3rd best offense in the league. Holy shit, they're really, really scary. Now, the potential of the defense does have the potential, I think, to reach top 5, top 3 in the league. But there's a couple breaking points. The biggest one is Khalil Mack. How good and how effective is Khalil Mack going to be into his later years of his career. Last year, he played limited time, but in his limited time, he was having a really good season, potentially second best year of his career, only behind those Defensive Player of the Year years, where he was, all-time level talent in that part of his career. But he was definitely going to have a really good year. Robert Quinn was obviously leading the team in sacks, and Khalil Mack was second with one less sack 6 games into the year. They were both on track to go for 12 to 15 sacks apiece and just be a dangerous duo. And Khalil, if he stays healthy, probably would have stayed in Chicago if he continued on that pace. So if we can get that Khalil Mack, it's a wrap, man. The secondary's loaded. We have Derwin James and J.C. Jackson, both ball hawks. A lot of people forget Asante Samuel, I think, had 3 or 4 interceptions in 12 games in his rookie year. He plays all the games and gets 2 more interceptions. He's in the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation last year. A lot of people also forget that the Chargers also picked up Bryce Callahan, who we've needed a slot corner. That's why they drafted ASJ originally, is because we needed a slot corner because Chris Harris Jr. kind of flopped the big time on that signing. Bryce is going to play the slot, and they're going to leave ASJ out wide. It's J.C. Jackson with Bryce Callahan in the slot and Asante Sam on the other side with Derwin James over the top. I mean, there's nowhere really to attack this team other than to continue to run the ball like they did last year. That's why all the pressure, I think, whether we go up and become a top 5 defense or if we kind of stay around average, is on if Khalil Mack is healthy and effective. Because if he is, it's scary. It's scary seasons. And Staley's been a part of 2 defenses that have ranked 1 in the league, and both of them have keyed on that front 7, but especially the D-line.
The back 4 is probably the best back 4 in football, just on paper. Like, I don't know if there is, just off of face value and name value, a better back 4 in the league than what Los Angeles has right now. The interesting part, though, is the front 7, because the run defense struggled immensely last season. It wasn't as stout as you may have expected it to, or may have thought it should have been. Khalil Mack is very important. Like, we looked at across the hall the other LA team, the Super Bowl champions, Los Angeles Rams, and what they had in their front four. You've got obviously Aaron Donald, who's the best he's the best player in football. I don't even forget defensive. And then like what they were able to do with bringing in Von Miller, and they also had Leonard Floyd, just to kind of make things more confusing for offensive linemen. Like, that looks like that's what the Chargers are trying to replicate, and it has the potential to work. I mean, there are a lot of high-powered offenses in the AFC now. This is whole AFC migration thing. You've got the Bengals and you've got the Bills and you got all these high-powered offenses, but it's all about the front 7. And there aren't a lot of teams in general that are good running football teams. Like, you obviously look at the Browns because they've got the best running back duo in football. You're looking at obviously the Titans. You take a look at the Raiders to a degree, but there aren't really a lot of good running teams in the NFL because, as you mentioned, it seems like the wide receivers are now becoming the more important part. And it makes sense because when your quarterback's the most important position on the field, well, you want to make sure you've got some good people to throw the ball to. So it'll be interesting to see what the front 7 looks like, and interesting to see what Brandon Staley can do with this defense. Now, I did mention earlier at the top of the show that this season for the Chargers last season was kind of heartbreaking. A costly timeout and an interesting position gets the Chargers from tying a game and going to the playoffs to losing a game and sitting at home. This is twice now in both of Justin Herbert's seasons where wacky coaching has cost a talented team from potentially going to the playoffs. Do you think Brandon Staley can improve in his second season and stay away from the analytics and maybe just coach football the way football think it should be coached regularly?
I am okay. I want to just say this first. I am okay with Brandon Staley's analytic-driven thing. I am completely okay with it, but we just have to be logical about it. It has to be in the moment where you're making a decision. If you lean on the analytics every single time and you have a success rate of 65% on 4th down, leaning on those analytics, lean on the damn analytics. I want you to do what you feel comfortable, Brandon. But do not be just out here in the 3rd quarter going for it on the 18-yard line in the most important game of the season. The most important game of the season because we lost to the Houston Texans a couple weeks earlier. The most important game of the season because we lost to the Minnesota Vikings, who beat us with just Justin Jefferson. They threw jump balls. If you go back and watch that game, they just threw jump balls to Justin Jefferson the entire second half and beat us with it. We couldn't stop it because we didn't have Derwin James for that game. So we cannot let that stuff happen. We can go ahead and lean on analytics, but we cannot blow the games in the ways that we blow the games coaching-wise where it's not logical to me, and it doesn't really make sense to go for it in that situation. Go ahead and punt the ball away. We have a ridiculous offense. Their offense was not ridiculous last year. No offense to the Raiders. Raiders fans will even admit it. Their offense was not ridiculous last year. They should not have dropped 35 on our head when the whole season's on the line. It shouldn't have happened. And that's why these defensive additions are so key to how far the Chargers can go next year, because that really held us back big time to have a defensive-minded head coach and the defense struggle. Because Herbert and Joe Lombardi and the entire offense took care of business last year. It was the defense that held him back. It was the defense 100%.
And I mean, when you look at those analytics as far as going on third and fourth down, there was no one better on those downs than Justin Herbert last season. I think maybe only one quarterback, and I can't think of who that was, but he was ranked 90. He had a 94 PFF rating.
Mm-hmm. And I think that other quarterback was on like half the attempts, so it's like
so he didn't even have as many. I mean, and you talk about that last game, he was 8 for 8, 9 for 9, completing on third and fourth downs in that last game of the season. Justin Herbert's incredible, but analytics are interesting, right? Because let's say you call the timeout or all these analytics and the Chargers go on to win the Super Bowl last season. We're talking about like the narrative around analytics is a little bit different. Like maybe this is the beginning of analytics truly becoming. So it's definitely a tough spot to be in if you're Brandon Staley, like, because if it's like a basketball thing, like you live by the 3, you die by the 3. Well, if you live by analytics, you die by analytics. And it's such a tough spot to be in if you're Brandon Staley, but to stick with it, I think, is what's the most admirable. Like he's not shaken by all the negativity surrounding the decisions he may or may not make in certain situations. Because I mean, I think it's because we're so used to like, okay, if it's third and long and you're in your own territory, you don't, or if it's fourth and long in your own territory, you don't go for that. You punt the ball. But here we have Brandon Staley. It's like, oh, I got trust in Justin Herbert. I have trust in this offense. Let's do it. Do you think though that maybe sometimes, because you hear this sometimes, that when you go for a fourth down, maybe it's because you don't trust your defense? Do you think that played a part in it last year, was because Durham was in and out of the lineup? There's a lot of injuries that they were like, look, we got a really good offense. Let's just let our offense do what it does because this defense isn't where it should be. Do you think maybe that they recognize that and that's why they were so heavy, or do you think that's just the way that Brandon Staley is?
And maybe that played a role. Watching Rex Burkhead have 200 all-purpose yards is painful to watch in the middle of a 2021 season, especially by Davis Mills and the Houston Texans without Brendan Cooks. I mean, that was the ugliest loss of the year last year and the ugliest loss that I've seen from the Chargers over the last couple of years. But, yeah, it had to have something to do with it. Also, how confident were they in the kicking? I know late in the year, D-Hop was actually really good. We picked up Dustin Hopkins later on in the year. I think he went 31 of 34 or 30 of 33. He was very good. But the entire first half of the season was haunted by Tristan Vizcaino, who was just missing extra points and big moments and all this terrible stuff. So maybe they're also not confident in the kicking and punting. We had the lowest net punt average as well last year, and the defense. It has something to do with it. I'm hoping that it's just go ahead, keep that aggressive attack mentality when we're on the 40-yard line midfield and it's like kick a 60-yarder or try and go for it on 4th and 5. We have Herbert. Let's go for it on 4th and 5. Yeah. Let's just not do the crazy stuff. Yeah. The stuff that cost us games last year in KC and in Vegas, and like I said, in Minnesota and in Houston. Those 4 games right there that ended our season. That is Bengals, and to mention, sorry, I meant to say this when you were talking about it. The Chargers went 9-8 last year. Like you were saying, who knows they get into the playoffs, what happens, and how hot this offense could have gotten. The Bengals only won one more game than the Chargers last year.
Yeah. It was really that close. And you talk about, again, the game against Minnesota, both those divisional games in Houston, one of those games, you're talking about a situation where maybe the Chargers are catching that lightning in the bottle going all the way to the Super Bowl. That would have been a great Super Bowl. Chargers versus Rams in SoFi. That would have been
insane. Maybe we can get it this year, but it'll be in Arizona.
Get it this year, but it won't be in SoFi though, so it's probably the same effect. But let's talk about the draft class for a second. I think this is already the second best offensive line in football, behind the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if there are many. I can't think of another offensive line that's better than what the Chargers have. And they went depth. They went and they drafted some guys at depth. Do you think, I'm not going to say their names because I'm gonna butcher them, and I don't want to butcher their names, but you know their names. Do you think that the rookies that they drafted for their offensive line are going to? How do you think they're going to fit? Like, because they're pretty set at offensive line, really, but obviously it never hurts to have backup offensive linemen. How do you expect that to work for the rookies that they brought in to kind of beef up the O-line and help Justin Herbert with protection and Austin run blocking and things like that?
Yeah, I can't pronounce Tito's name either. That's why they just call him Tito. It's like, oh, Tito, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I can't really say his name. I'll practice. I'll get back to you because we have a linebacker who's a backup linebacker whose last name is Ong Bong Mamiga. And I got his down. So I got to get the other ones down too. And Jameer Slayer were the guys that you were talking about. But yeah, let's just go across the offensive line. We have a great offensive line going into 2022, and it's even a little bit more improved than last year. And last year, I feel like they were top 15, close to top 12, just really solid offensive line. The problem is the run game, but we have Austin Eckler, who's a receiving running back.
Yeah.
But obviously at left tackle, Rashawn Slater now is established. I mean, this guy is a stud, all-pro rookie. That's insane. At left tackle, too. That's a hard position to come into the league in just day one. I think what helped him out a lot is that Matt Filer's playing next to him at left guard. And Matt Filer is a very experienced player, played for the Steelers for a couple of seasons. Last year, he put up like a Pro Bowl-like production. Didn't make the Pro Bowl. I think he was an alternate, or he could have gotten in if someone canceled. But that dude put in work last year out of the guard position, and that part of our O-line was the strongest part, was our left guard and left tackle. Obviously, we have Corey Linsley at center, and that, I think, improved the entire O-line in general. Just having that guy calling the front. A lot of people don't know that didn't play football is that the center is like the quarterback of the offensive line. He's making a lot of those calls there. He's doing all the communication to both the right and left side because the left tackle can't talk to the right tackle. The left guard can't talk to the right guard. They all have to go through the center. So it's a big deal communication-wise to upgrade from Scott Quessenberry, who the hell is that, right, to Corey Linsley the following year. Yeah. And now we have Zion Johnson at right guard, who I have extreme confidence in. Watching his college tape, this dude looks like an absolute monster. He happens to be 6'8", like 265. I did meet him. I met him at a little meet and greet thing that he was doing. Made me look tiny, and I'm like almost 6 feet tall myself. So this guy is a monster, man. And if he works out and he's even just a good guard, that's a huge upgrade from what we had last year. We had Ode Ibushi, who lost his ACL in the 4th week of the season. So like we kind of were playing without a guard all year last year. And then the biggest question mark is the right tackle position. The Chargers have been developing Trey Pipkins for 3 seasons now. That's kind of who they're going to lean on, I think, this year. But there is an emergency option because Matt Filer played a lot of right tackle in college and at Pittsburgh as well. So we could bump Filer to right tackle and then bring in a new guard, maybe someone who played guard last year in that role to left guard. But there's just so much depth now, like you said, where the starting lineup like is top 10 potentially, maybe top 5, maybe top 3, like you're saying. I mean, it on paper it looks amazing, but even if you lose a guy here, lose a guy there, everyone behind them, Slayer, Tito, if Filer has to move, they all are guard tackles. Yeah. They both. So it's good to see that depth and versatility on the line. They emphasize versatility this offseason, both on defense and on the line. I love it. I'm pumped for what we have in the offensive line room for 2022, taking the step next year.
There's a lot of great things going on with LA. Obviously, you got the Herbert, you have Allen and Mike Williams. You didn't touch on Austin Eckler, but you got Austin Eckler as well. You got all this talent in what is the most talented division in football and the most stacked division in football. There is some parity from position to position. Obviously, there's a clear quarterback hierarchy. I think there is not so much a clear wide receiver hierarchy. It's really close. I think every team has got one thing better than the rest. And it's going to make for really, really, really good football. Obviously, you have 6 games in the AFC West. I think it's the AFC South and the NFC West as well on there. And then 3 other games sprinkled in there against the Browns, the Dolphins, and another team I'm forgetting right now, the Seahawks. No, that's the NFC West. That was a stupid thing to say. Anyway, you know the schedule better than I do. With that being said, stacked division. How many games are the Los Angeles Chargers winning this year? Because they won 9 last year. I'd like to think that with all the improvements, especially defensively, they're going to get at least 9 this season. How many wins are your Chargers winning this? How many wins are they getting this season?
I think 12 is a safe number. But if we can find a way to sweep one of those other losers in our division, if we can find a way just to sweep Broncos or Chiefs or Raiders, the Chargers are going to win 13 games. But we got to sweep one of them. I don't know how we're going to do it or which one it's going to be.
Let's put you
on pointing at KC because we're kind of built matchup wise to go after KC. We went after them twice last year. Blew the second game, just completely blew it. Fumbled on the 1-yard line with Josh Kelly, and then we lost A lot of people saw a scary injury with Donald Parham. He caught a touchdown pass on that play, but it ended up being incomplete. That's 2 touchdowns taken off the board in a 6-point final game. That ended up, we forced the overtime, and then Travis Kelce does that crazy run. We shouldn't even been there. We should have won the game, swept the Chiefs last year. So that's the team I got circled.
These are the team the Chargers are going to
pass rush, unless Kansas City comes out and all of a sudden LaShawn McCoy is back to what he can do, and Andy Reid's like gets him on the phone and says, "Come on out here," and we ain't worried about the Chiefs. CEH ain't running all over us. I just said Rex Burkhead did it. So
this is such a tough division to call. I feel like when all of these teams, if they're at their best, are capable of winning 12 games.
Mm-hmm. It's really tough.
It is. I have the Chargers going 13-4 right now at first glance. I haven't really deep dived into it and made my official prediction, but at first glance, I got them at 13-4. Mm-hmm. I am really, really, really intrigued in the matchup with the Denver Broncos. That one is the one that I think if there's a team you sweep the division, it's the Broncos. I'm just really looking forward to it. I think the Chargers have the best defense in the league or in the division. You can argue that they have the best quarterback in the division. They've definitely got solidified the second best quarterback in the division. If you want to put Pat Mahomes ahead of him, I mean, what are you going to do with Patrick Mahomes? They've got a reliable 1-2 punch at receiver. I think they have the best running back in the division, Austin Eckler. I mean, there's not much that the Chargers don't have offensively and defensively. The Broncos, I think, are going to be the most vulnerable team because there's just been so much turnover. There's a lot of new faces on the field, on the sidelines, and the coaching staff. So many different things going on. That's the one I'm looking at. The Chargers always play the Chiefs hard, and it's always hard for me to kind of gauge what happens there. The Raiders are the Raiders, but now that you got Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, that they're probably going to be a little bit more aggressive. But the Broncos, I think, are going to be the team that the Chargers sweep. But yeah, I got them at 13-4.
I'm with you.
And I think they're winning the division, actually. I have the Chargers winning the division. It's going to be must-watch football in the AFC West. All 6 of those games are going to be crucial games. They're going to have that playoff feel, which division games usually have, but this one's going to be much different because everyone thinks all 4 of these teams could make the playoffs. When you look at what the other divisions are having, like the AFC East isn't good outside of Buffalo. The AFC South is a bad division altogether, but someone's got to get in, likely the Colts. And then you look at the AFC North. It's a tough division, but the Steelers don't have a quarterback, and the Browns also don't really have a quarterback because you don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. So it's really just the Ravens and the Bengals. It's possible that all 4 get in it, but the Chargers won't have to fret. The Justin Herbert will make his playoff debut this postseason. As a division winner,
please,
the AFC West.
Please.
That is my official first prediction. That could change in a couple weeks once all this is wrapped up, but it won't. The Chargers winning the division either way. It's always a pleasure to talk to Mike on Instagram. It's been even more of a pleasure to have him on the show. He's a busy man, though. Please let everybody know at home where they can find you and your myriad of content.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on NFL Mike. That's where my primary content stream is on TikTok. At NFL Mike, no space, on TikTok. I haven't been able to get the handle on Instagram. NFL Mike. Mike, give me the damn handle, bro. I hit him up, and he said, nah, man, come back with some money. So I'll be coming back one day in my life. It's Mike on the Mike Sports on Instagram. And as far as my YouTube stuff goes, we're right now, while we're recording this, the Warzone Sports Network, but there's actually a plan. Marcus, you're getting a little sneak peek at it. We'll be switching over to the Undrafted Sports Network here soon. A little rebrand going down. I think it's planned to happen before this releases if you're doing this around July 4th. So either Undrafted or Warzone Sports Network if you guys want to find me and search there. I do want to give a closing statement, though.
It's for sure, man.
You could go to the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Raiders. Ask them what their greatest strength is. And like you said, the Chargers have all of it. The only thing that those teams have that the Chargers don't have yet is history. And it's going to get made in 2022. I'm telling you right now, Marcus.
I feel like I don't have to ask because you're a Chargers fan, but do you have the Chargers going to the Super Bowl this year?
I do. And I am a Chargers fan. This is the first time in my life that I've actually had them going to the Super Bowl as my pick.
That was going to be my follow-up question. Is do you actually – okay. This is the first time you're –
in the Cowboys thing.
And the Chargers going to the – okay.
Hey, I've been wrong. I mean, I've only been right once, I think, in my entire time doing stuff like this since I was like 16, which was with the Bucks and Tom Brady. But I've been wrong. Don't think I'm always right. But I haven't picked the Chargers at the same time.
So you have okay, that's interesting. It'll be fun to see the Chargers play football season, that's for sure. Like I said, thank you, Mike, for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this. It's been quite a journey. We've posted episodes just about every day the past couple weeks because of the finals and obviously because of this. I told you guys when I started this in April before the draft that it would get done. It is going to get done. All 32 teams are going to get done. This is, I don't even know what episode this is because I've done so many. But thank you guys for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, follow on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And yeah, don't miss out on anything. And September 1st is a very important day on the calendar. So make sure you circle it and all that stuff because you're not going to want to miss what's happening September 1st. Very big announcement and some very special things are happening from that point over. So for NFL Mike, Shawn Michaels, the not heartbreak kid. This is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your life.